Well, sometimes we learn lessons in life a little bit later than we wish we would have. And especially in this recovery process, there's some surprising things that we learn along the way. We're in the middle of having a few conversations with a couple of our brothers and sisters about what did it look like for them to jump into this process? What things surprised them? And what are some lessons they wish they would have known a little sooner in the process as they walked in to recovery?
Recovery can be hard, but it's worth it. There is hope knowing we can find healing one step at a time with Jesus and healthy community. Whether you're struggling with a hurt or a hang-up or a habit, you're not alone. During this podcast, we share real stories, practical tools, and powerful truths that inspire you to keep moving forward. No matter where you are on your journey, there's hope ahead. So stick with us as we walk this path together through Celebrate Recovery.
Well, welcome back to Hope in Recovery, a Fellowship Celebrate Recovery podcast where we share life change stories and have recovery conversations, all with the lens to help push us further down our road of healing and wholeness as we walk with Jesus in this incredible recovery process. And super excited for our conversation today with a good brother of mine that's been walking this journey with us for a while. Excited to kind of hear his story and his perspective in it. If you've been getting stuff out of this podcast, as if this has been something that's been helpful for your recovery, as always, please like, share, subscribe, and whatever platform it's on, whether you're listening to just the audio of this or whether you're watching the video of this on YouTube. We're so appreciative of you and grateful for you. Let me introduce myself. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus. I struggle with anxiety, depression, sexual addiction, and grief. My name is Andy, and I've got the great privilege of being able to help lead the Celebrate Recovery Ministry at Fellowship Fayetteville. And today I'm excited for our guest today. Brother, would you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us your involvement with this ministry, man?
Yeah, I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with sexual addiction, codependency, and anger, and my name is Justin. I get the
Amen.
honor of serving with the Landing, which is Celebrate Recovery Student Ministry. Every Friday night, we have hurting teens from 5th grade to 12th grade, and I get to walk alongside them as they work through the recovery process themselves and start gaining those tools to be able to cope and manage well as they grow up.
Man, I love it, man. It's kind of fun for me having the conversation with you because what you're doing up in Rogers with our 5th through 12th grade students in Landing, that was my entry point into recovery as well. And so, yeah, I'm just grateful for you. If you're a parent listening to this right now, and your kids are attending the Rogers campus, man, there's not a brother that I would trust more with my kids than I think Justin. He's an incredible guy, and our kids are really, really blessed. Our students are really blessed. And so appreciate you, man, and your investment into the next generation, man. It's doing
Thank you,
some
man.
cool
That's really
stuff,
kind.
brother. Yeah, man. Well, dude, it's kind of fun. I think back, you in particular, man, your recovery journey started before you came on staff with Celebrate Recovery, man. And so, brother, what did it look like for you to get plugged in to Celebrate Recovery, and what was surprising about it?
Yeah, so I started attending Celebrate Recovery in 2020, right
Mm.
before COVID happened, and then COVID happened. So it kind of looked a little bit different for me going into a launching point into Celebrate Recovery. I went to a service and I enjoyed it. Went to what's the beginning first timers meeting that they
Yeah.
have. And I was able to be a part of that, and I was like, "Oh, I love this! I'm going to come back next week." And then the whole world shut down. But thankfully, they were able to do the online open shares, something innovative and something new for Celebrate Recovery. And I was able every Friday night to just go into my room, put my headphones in, and jump into an open share and be honest and connect with different brothers. And I just did that every Friday night until they opened back up.
Mm, man. And so, what was man, as you jumped into it, what was kind of your perspective. You said, "Man, I love this. I'm going to be back into it." What was surprising about it, man?
Man, I was really, um, it was really surprising about the honesty that was just forefront. Like a pastor saying from the stage, I struggle with this, this, and this, or a worship leader saying that from the stage. I had never experienced that. I grew up in a culture where we tried to protect our image. I was a pastor's kid, and so I always thought I need to say and do the right thing at right time because I'm representing my dad, representing the people. And so that's kind of how my mindset was when it came to church. And so whenever I entered the doors to Celebrate Recovery, um, it was just open and honest, and everyone was there. And there was a joy that I felt coming into the church that was like very different than what I experienced. And it was like these people are sharing some of the hardest things in their life, yet I've never seen so much joy come from them, and just the real freedom that I can feel, and I wanted to experience for myself.
Yeah, man. Interesting. You say that, man. That was something that was really surprising to me as I got plugged into it as well. It's like, man, I've never seen people like cheer and clap so much in church, and like be so pumped that Jesus is doing something in their life. And I was like, man, like I I kind of want that.
Mhm.
So, man, as you got plugged in more to the process, were there any expectations that you had on yourself that you started, whether it was digging into your struggles, what did that look like? What was the
Yeah,
expectation for you?
I think, well, whenever it was happening, we were all self-isolating or,
Mm,
distancing. And so there was just a lot of time for me to work on myself. And so my expectations kind of dropped a little bit of going in there. There wasn't much to do but work on myself. I had a roommate with me, and it was funny because I would be reading Life Healing Choices, which is a kind of a condensed, summarized version of the eight principles, and getting to go through those steps. So I was reading those just my time, free time, and as I'm going through those, going through the questions, going to those steps, I would recognize, oh man, I said something I shouldn't have said to my roommate. And I
mm.
would set that expectation of like within 24 hours, I need to go apologize to him. And I just started real slow. And so it isn't always I give myself a lot of grace when I jump into things. I kind of want to be good at it right at the start. But I think because of the circumstances that I jumped into to celebrate recovery, I said, you know what, we're going to take this one day at a time.
Mm, that's good, man. We're gonna take this one day at a time. Was that one day at a time attitude? Because I we say that a lot in recovery, man. That one day at a time attitude, was that something that you had heard before and had tried to live with, or was that one of those early kind of lessons that you were learning?
I think it was one of those early type of lessons that jumping into Celebrate Recovery, recognizing that it's not a quick fix, and that there's a ton of brokenness, more than I knew that I had going into Celebrate Recovery. And
Mm-hmm.
as I started listening to other guys share, and as I started going through the material myself, I recognized like, oh, there's something that happened 10 years ago that I shoved in the back of my head, and here it is again, and I need to work through it. And the Lord was kind enough to bring that to my memory, and so I can start working through it with other brothers.
Man, yeah, it was so funny. One of those things that I know I realized jumping into the process is like I had an idea of some of the things that needed to shift a little bit for me. Like, uh, in particular, I had a pornography addiction. And,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I was ready to say, yeah, I've got an addiction with this. I wasn't quite ready to call reality reality.
Mm-hmm.
But there was, I knew that there was an issue and I couldn't fix it on my own, or at least all of my efforts so far had failed. And, but then as I started leaning into it, it was a surprising thing for me that there was stuff underneath it. It's like, oh, dang, you mentioned, man, there's something 10 years ago that I've buried, but I thought it was in the past, but it's been clinging on to me like a little toddler as I've been walking around. And
Mm-hmm.
so, man, did you feel a similar thing in your life?
Yeah, yeah. I think that it was really eye-opening to me, recognizing that there was stuff that I knew I struggled with. I also came in to Celebrate Recovery with a pornography and masturbation addiction, and in anger. Like those are things that I could walk into
Mm,
Celebrate Recovery in day one and say that I struggle with these things. But I think something that was eye-opening to me was how deep it actually went. Like
Mm,
my anger actually went deeper. My pornography and masturbation was a symptom to something, a deep hurt that I was feeling, or a void that I felt that I knew only God could feel. I
mm.
just didn't want to say it out loud or say that I struggle with this up until me going in to celebrate recovery. And so I think that it really brought me peace to know that I can be completely honest and show up who I am and start working on that process, and no one is expecting me to be fixed by the next week, you know?
Yeah, it's nice to know that the expectation is, progress, not perfection. Uh, yeah, man. So as you jump in and as you kind of look back, I know it's funny for me looking back on myself when I think about me jumping into my first step study and some of the ways that I was approaching things and some of the things that I just didn't know I didn't know. Uh, what were what were some of those things for you that you felt like, man, you just didn't know you didn't know that, and maybe it would have been a little helpful knowing it as you jumped into maybe your first step study and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things was the importance of the word why, WHY. Um,
Mm,
there's a lot that I brought shame and guilt on myself for, but whenever I started bringing that
mm,
question up into my struggles and the things that I was dealing with on a day to day, all of a sudden I realized there's a lot more grace and there's a lot more understanding in that. So I wish I would have asked myself, why am I struggling right now, or why do I feel this way? And that actually led to more freedom once I got to that point
mm.
and realized, oh, these five things happened today. And so it makes sense that right now in this moment that I'm feeling angry, upset, hungry, like plethora of things. The word why just like changed my perspective and how I view myself and others.
Mm. Dude, that's so good. I want to drill down on that for a second because I feel like that is such a man, that's a profound statement there. That curiosity towards myself. I didn't realize that, because I had similar stuff happen. I'm like, wait a second. You mean these behaviors are coming from somewhere else? Like they're getting triggered by other things? Like what's happening here? Like, what did that process of discovery look like for you, man? And like, uh, but maybe even before that, like, describe to us what your thought processes were before you started asking why.
Yeah. So before I started asking why, I would kind of go through my day on autopilot. Like things are happening and I'm
Mm,
moving forward. And that's just kind of the mentality that I had. And then I would get to a struggle. And I would say, oh, I shouldn't be struggling with this right now. I need to stop. And when that happens, it goes to I need to stop rather than asking the question why. I would bring shame on myself when I couldn't stop, or there was a behavior that I was doing that I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was trying to go straight to the solution instead of actually clearing out a path to see what's actually causing the problem. So that was my
mm.
before.
Yeah, well, that what you just said there was so big. I was just going straight to the solution rather than understanding how I got there. Man, and you mentioned like I'd heap shame on myself. Like what were some of those messages? Were there like some core lies that you were kind of clinging to in that spot?
Yeah, definitely was. A big one was I'm the only one that's struggling with this, or I've gone too far, I'm too broken. That was a one that I
Mm,
would say a lot of times. It's like because of my background, because of where I come from, I'm not going to be fixed because that's just a lot that I've been given. And that's just a lie. That's not what the
oof.
gospel says. It rewrites the story for me and gives me freedom through the Holy Spirit. And so that was a big one. And the fact that
Mm.
I thought that I was too much of a burden for other people, that was a big lie.
Yeah, man. Dude, sounds like you're reading part of my journal as you're going through that, man. Like, I'm too much of a burden. There's too much going on here. Like, this is my lot in life. I'm just gonna try, but I'm gonna fail, man. And so, was there a moment? Was there a situation that popped up where you found yourself just kind of asking why? And if there is, can you bring us into the room of kind of what that looked like and felt like?
Man. Um, let me think.
Yeah, I know it's a tough question on that.
Yeah, I think that brings me back to the question you asked earlier of like what are some things that you didn't know going into recovery that you wish you would have known. Um, I wish I would have known that people are a lot more trusting than what I did going in to
Mm,
celebrate recovery. Because the reality is I didn't ask myself the question why first. Somebody else did. And so me
mm,
sitting down with my sponsor and I'm saying I'm struggling with this or I acted out, and my sponsors asking me a question like, "What happened today? Like what's going on? Like what are some things?" And he just walks with me through the day, and all of a sudden he asks the question like, "What is happening?" And not why in a shaming way, but it's like, what was the thing that made you go to that spot in the first place? And once my sponsor and other people, accountability partners, started asking me that question, I started asking it to myself in the moment. And all of a sudden, I found myself in more grace and said, actually, I need to go somewhere else rather than this because it's going to put me in a cycle again.
man, as you're talking about that, there's so many things that are popping up for me, and like, yeah, like that realization that like, hey, people actually care enough about me to want to curiously step into this with me, and not in a sense of like shame and you're too much. Like, why don't you just kind of fix yourself? That's how I always viewed my own issues. But like curiosity and kindness. And I can't remember who it is. I think it is. I think it's Dan Allender. It might be a guy named Adam Young. But the statement of like one of the biggest things that we need that will help us in our struggles is a good a good measure of kindness and curiosity for our stories and why we got there.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, in my struggles and in my shame, the lie that I would cling to was like, man, you just need to fix this. And like, why is this happening? I never really had an issue of like feeling guilty about what I did. Uh,
Hmm.
like that was
Yeah,
never my,
yeah.
I was always like, man, I always had this sneaking suspicion that I was never going to be enough. And so like when I
Hmm.
proved that through my behavior, I was like, ah, golly, man. But the, the shame and the trying to fix myself never worked. It actually only drove me deeper into it because the harder I tried, the more I failed. The harder I tried under my own strength, obviously. And, but that kindness and curiosity, that experience of that from another person is a permission giving experience. And it sounds like, sitting across the table, because I've had those same conversations with my sponsor, uh, where he goes, "Hey, why did you do that?" And I was like, "What do you mean, why? I just wanted to." And it's like, no, there's something else
There's
going
more,
on
yeah.
here, man. Yeah. Well, hey, we're gonna take a quick break, but as we come back from the break, I want to explore the fruit of asking why and how that's
Mm.
changed you, man. So let's go to a quick break, and we'll be back in a second. All right, and we're back having a great conversation with my brother Justin here, and we're talking about one of the lessons learned is just the power of asking why, trying to take the shame out of what we're struggling with. Not that we're trying to skirt ownership in any stretch of the imagination, but just trying to just honestly understand, like, hey, if I'm in this place, I probably got here for a reason. What are those reasons, and how did I get here? And so, Justin, you were telling us before the break about sitting with your sponsor and just him asking a simple question of like, "Hey, why?
Hmm.
Why are you going to those things that you're going to, man?" And so as you started experiencing those places, as your sponsor gave you permission and started asking that, how did that change you?
Yeah, I think whenever I started asking the question why, and eventually bringing other people into that as well, and the things that I'm struggling with, it solidified my identity with Christ. And I think that's really
Mm,
important whenever you're dealing with your struggles. That's why in our introduction we start off with our position in faith, because it's the thing, it's the rock solid thing that's going to keep us grounded as we go through the rest of it. And so
yeah.
I
Real
really,
quick, say more about what you just said there. Like, as I asked why, it solidified my identity in Christ. That's a big statement. I don't want to pass that up.
yeah, yeah.
What do you mean by that? Yeah.
Yeah, so whenever I was asking the question why, I could start to understand that the things that I was doing wasn't defining me. Like I like understanding that
Mm,
because I'm a believer in Jesus Christ defines me and not my struggles. And I was able to
mm,
like be rock solid in that. And once I know that I'm on solid ground with that, then I can go towards my struggles without any shame, because shame is I am
mm.
bad and guilt is I did something bad. And once I was able to start approaching it in that way, I was able to work on those things and say, if I fail, that's okay, because I know Christ is going to catch me and I'm going to get up and keep going forward and bring other people alongside me, knowing I'm still covered in the blood of Jesus Christ because of what he did on the cross.
And you know what's so paradoxical about that? Because I think there's a little bit in me that has a resistance towards grace. This idea that even if my behavior isn't what I want it to be, even if I fail, even if I sin, even if I relapse, like Jesus doesn't view me differently. In fact, he longs to kind of run towards me in those places. Like his kindness towards me in my brokenness is unfathomable. But to me, it feels a little bit like, okay, if I truly embrace that, that feels dangerous because then am I going to give myself license to just keep doing that? But the weird paradoxical thing, and this is what I've found, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is that the more I realized that, the easier it was to not run back to the struggle.
Mm.
Like, and it's hard to explain. Did you feel a similar thing? Like
Yeah,
over
no, that's
time?
yeah. Over time, I recognized that once I understood um, who Jesus was and who God was and how faithful He was, that I could go back to Him every time that I messed up and it was going to be okay.
Mm,
And then I recognized that He's a lot more faithful than that addiction that I was trying to go to, because that addiction was going to let me down eventually. And but going back to Christ, it solidified me in saying, oh, when I go back to Christ, a few minutes, hours, days afterwards, I still feel his love and embrace in me, rather than if I'm going to pornography, substances, different things like that. They're gonna leave me out to dry eventually. They're not my savior. They can't be.
mm. Yeah. And with that too, like as you kept asking why and digging in and understanding your identity in Christ, as you started asking why in the midst of the struggle, did you start to understand some reasons why you were running to things?
Oh yeah, and that's
Yeah.
through multiple step studies. I've been a part of 5 step studies, just a long process of how we go through the 12 steps and the 8 principles, and just working through a lot of baggage in my past. There were some things that I recognized. It was just like I don't really feel like people are going to stay because my dad left the house when I was younger. And it took me a long time to figure that out. And it took me an even longer time
Mm.
to forgive him for that. But once I recognized that, all of a sudden I can let other people into my life without fear of them leaving or hurting me, because I've handled that issue in the past, and I've recognized that I can move forward and give people a new opportunity.
Man. So just even just crystallizing it even more, just kind of on kind of the ground level, because there's people right now that are in the midst of trying to find traction in their recovery. And what you're telling me that I feel like I'm picking up on is like day in and day out, as you would find yourself drawn towards your habits, as you find yourself tempted to run to pornography, as
Hmm.
you're asking why, starting to discover like, oh, I'm running to pornography because there are things going on in my life that are bumping up against this deeply held belief that I have
Hmm.
that people aren't going to show up for me or I'm not worth showing up for. Does that sound right? Did I
Yeah,
articulate
yeah.
that well?
I
Okay.
think there's multiple things that go into like every
Yeah.
struggle. Like I don't think there's like a single thing that does it. We're complicated, complex people with a lot of experiences. But yeah, that's the things that I started just peeling back every single time when it came to a specific struggle. And that's why I said earlier, there's like I knew I came in with these issues, but I didn't know how deep they went and started unpacking it.
Man, there's deep roots to our struggle. And I love that you mentioned like, hey, it's not a one size fits all thing. We're complex people with complex stories, and all of us have a story that's worth understanding. But when you started, rather than shaming the struggle when it came up, when you started to ask, hey, why am I feeling this pull today? It started uncovering the reason why you got to that stuck place, the lies that were kind of keeping you there. And as you started to see those, you were able to start to bring those to Jesus and let Jesus be the fulfillment of it, rather than trying to find comfort in the things that just keep you stuck.
Hmm.
Does that feel right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right on.
Man, dude, man, that's so good, Justin. That's just rich, man. Like the power of the process of us being able to see, like, man, our soul is far deeper than we give it credit for.
Hmm.
And God is far more willing to dive in those depths with us than I feel like I ever gave him credit for.
Yeah.
He's not scared of that. It's a messy place, but man, there's no mess that's too big for God. Man. So, Justin, as we kind of wrap up this conversation, I wish we had like another 6 hours to talk about this because this is good stuff, man. I love your perspectives, brother. But I want to ask you this: as there's people listening to this right now, and maybe they're in the beginning part of their process, thinking about how we might encourage them. How, what do you feel like you wish you would have known jumping into this? And if you could go back 5 years, that week before COVID shut everything down, and
Hmm.
say, hey, Justin, you have no idea what's coming down the road, what would you tell them?
Man, I think I would tell him to. It sounds cliche, but trust the process and trust the people
Mm,
in the process. I think that if I would have, there was a lot of trust that I need to build up for other people and in myself. And if I would have known that earlier, that the strangers sitting in the circle around me, um, that I could go as deep as I need to with them, and they're gonna say thanks for sharing, and they're not gonna put shame or guilt onto me. Man, I think that would have went a lot faster. But I'm grateful for the process that I've been in.
man, that's so good, Justin. Oh, man. That's rich, man. Like the people, these strangers sitting in the circle, they're safe. And I can go the distance with them. Man, well, cool. Well, brother, I'll give you the final word for somebody that's sitting, listening to this, man. How would you encourage somebody out there?
Yeah, I would encourage them to say that you're worth it. You're worth going after. You're worth going towards. If you're on the line of whether I should step into those doors or not, I'm telling you, you won't regret it. I'm just sitting in there and soaking in the people. The first time I sat in there, I felt freedom. And so I know that coming in and just sitting and taking it in. You don't have to participate outwardly, but just taking it in and seeing what the Lord is doing here at Celebrate Recovery. You won't regret it.
Man, well, Justin, that's a good word, brother. I appreciate you, man, and appreciate this conversation. And so for
Appreciate
those
you.
of you that are, yeah, man, for those of you that are listening today, as you're taking all of this in, uh, let me just encourage you. Just as Justin said, you are worth the work it takes to start living in healing. And there's nothing that you're carrying that Jesus isn't willing and able to help you navigate through. I love Matthew 11:28, where Jesus says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Uh, Jesus invites us into a process where he allows us to find rest in him. And we would love to walk with you in that process. We meet every single Friday night at Celebrate Recovery on Fellowship Rogers campus and Celebrate Recovery on Fellowship Fayetteville campus, 7 p.m. every Friday night. And we would love to invite you into this process of healing and hope as we pursue wholeness in Jesus. And we're praying for you this week as you're going throughout life. Know that you're not alone. Know that you're loved. And we'll see you soon.